Let's talk about the couples in League of Legends. Both of them were a part of the first batch of champions released way back in 2009. Back then, there wasn't really much of a plan to make them a couple or anything like that, but over time, the community and Riot started noticing how well these two actually fit together. You had this elegant, calm ice archer who acted like a queen, and this rage-fueled barbarian king who literally got so mad he couldn't die. That contrast in personalities, plus the whole king and queen vibe, made the community ship them hard. Eventually, Riot went, you know what, let's make it canon. A while back, we found out in the lore and in Ash's comics that the leaders of the Freljord tribes are women called war mothers. These leaders can have multiple husbands or suitors known as blood swarm. These guys can be chosen for their strength, for protecting the war mother or her family, or for political reasons. Ash's mom, for example, had a bunch of husbands, but Ash decided to take a different route and didn't want to marry anyone. Thing is, her tribe, the Avarosans, was made up of several smaller tribes that came together under her leadership. To keep the peace between them, Ash had to choose at least one husband to be her blood swarm. Otherwise, there'd be chaos. Since she didn't know who to pick, she straight up gathered all of the tribal leaders and made them fight to see who was worthy, and Tryndamere was the last one standing. So yeah, he basically earned his spot by proving himself, and in return, his dying tribe got to join the Avarosans. But this marriage was totally political at first, just a way to avoid conflict under Ash's rule. Over time though, their relationship actually grew into something real. Fun fact, Riot's CEO goes by Tryndamere online, and his wife's name is Ashley, so technically they're a canon couple in the lore and in real life too. These two were designed with that E-Dater's duo bot energy. Like, they were built to work better together in-game. When Xayah uses her W, Rakan can launch her feathers too. Or when Rakan dashes to Xayah, it goes farther. Even their recall animation is shared. They were made for this. Both Rakan and Xayah are rebellious Vistaya fighting for their people. Xayah is the brains of the operation. She's calculated, serious, always thinking ahead. Rakan, he's the wild card. Loud, goofy, does everything on impulse, never sticks to the plan. She's calm and focused, he's all over the place. Perfect example of opposites attracting. Their relationship started as a partnership to defend their people, but over time, Xayah fell for him. Even though he's kind of a goof, Rakan's a skilled fighter and would do anything to protect her. That's pretty much it for their lore. It's simple, but super solid. When Lucian was first released, his entire story was about getting revenge on Thresh because Thresh supposedly killed Senna during a mission. Both of them were sentinels, and when they ran into Thresh, things went sideways. Senna told them to retreat, but Lucian didn't listen. He tried to fight Thresh, and Senna ended up dead, her soul trapped in Thresh's lantern. After that, Lucian made it his mission to destroy Thresh no matter what. For like 5 years, he fought like hell, but deep down he didn't even believe he could free her. He just wanted to kill Thresh, even if it meant dying himself. Then, in Senna's release cinematic, Lucian finally shatters the lantern and she comes back. After that, during the Ruined King event, Lucian's main goal wasn't to save the world from Viego, it was to save Senna. Of course, if the world is destroyed, she dies with it. But his motivation wasn't about being a hero, it was about her, and that's such a cool contrast between him and Viego. Both of them literally fought against the world to save the woman they loved. The difference? Lucian had a little more common sense than Viego. Back in their teen years, these two were super close. They legit loved each other, but life got in the way. Alawi had to dedicate herself to her faith and become the priestess of the Buru religion, worshipping Nagakeboros. That meant she had to move on, just like her faith teaches, always moving forward, never clinging to the past. Fast forward to the Burning Tides event, GP's down bad. No crew, no ship, lost his arm, just a wreck. He goes to Alawi, begging for help, asking her to test him to see if he's still worth anything after losing everything. Maybe she still had feelings, or maybe she just pitied him, but she gave him a spirit test anyways. That's basically Alawi's E in game, where she pulls someone's soul out with a tentacle. She expected him to fail and die, but he survived. That meant he was worthy, so she told her people to take him away, judging that he was still in motion. But that motion ended up being the events of the Ruined King game, where GP makes a shady deal with Thresh that unleashes the black mist on Bilgewater. Later, GP gets defeated by misfortune and thrown in jail. Alawi visits him and straight up tells him that if he'd stay with her from the start, maybe he wouldn't have messed everything up. But at that point, she was done. She saw that he wasn't driven by purpose anymore. It was just obsession getting back to power. She tells him that mortals need to grow, change, and move on, but he doesn't. So yeah, she kind of buried any hope of them being together right there. Unlike them though, I still have hope. Hope that you'll like the video and subscribe, and maybe even become a channel member to unlock cool perks, like picking future video topics and receiving videos earlier. Caitlyn came out in 2011 as Piltover's sheriff. Then in 2013, Vi showed up and was instantly described as Kate's partner. And if you've watched any cop show ever, you know how this works. There's always the by-the-book officer and the chaotic one who just punches first, asks questions later. That's literally Vi. It's like Lucifer and Chloe from the Lucifer series. Plus, they're from completely different worlds, which adds up to the whole opposites attract thing. Fans shipped them hard for years, even though Riot didn't confirm anything. Their only real interaction pre-Arcane was in a short story called Child of Zon, where they had a meeting, teased each other a bit, and Caitlyn showed she trusted and cared about Vi. But then came Arcane, and boom, 100% canon. We saw how they met, how they interact, and fans lost their minds. All that teasing finally paid off. For a long time, their relationship was seen as a strong friendship. Then Riot released a story for Pride Month called Rise With Me, and that made their romance canon. It's honestly one of the best written stories I've ever read. It's all told through these letters, notes, and journal entries, and it builds up to a big Solari festival called Narrator. The story shows them as teenagers. Diana was always this rebellious, questioning kind of person, totally at odds with Solari teachings. Leona, on the other hand, was super devout, but she was drawn to Diana's way of thinking. Diana made her question things and grow. On the day of the festival, Leona invites Diana and even kisses her. Sadly, their teenage love didn't last. Diana became more rebellious, and Leona got deeper into her faith. Eventually, they both ascended on Mount Targon and became the aspects of the moon and the sun. Then came the drama. Diana killed a bunch of Solari priests when they rejected her as the new aspect of the moon. She fled, and Leona was furious. But despite all that, I still think they love each other. They just haven't sat down and talked it out. Not officially canon yet, but they've got such a great backstory. Back when League first launched, there weren't a lot of male marksman champs. For a long time, the only ones were Ezreal, Twitch, and Kog'Maw. And let's be real, Twitch and Kog aren't exactly men. And Ez wasn't the macho guy some players wanted. So in 2011, Riot dropped Graves. He was supposed to be the rugged, manly shooter people were asking for. Ironic considering he's now gay and the romantic partner of Twisted Fate. Their lore has been linked from the start. They were crime partners back in the day, but something went down and TF ditched Graves, leaving him to rot in jail. Graves eventually breaks out and goes after TF for revenge. During the Burning Tides event, Misfortune ends up using the two of them as pawns in her plan to take down GP. Graves and TF reunite. Things get crazy. TF nearly drowns, and Graves saves him. After that, they patch things up and start running jobs together again. Then came another Pride Month story called The Boys in Bombolini. It shows TF and Graves cornered in a dangerous situation. An old partner of theirs, Bombolini, assumes they're a couple and even says, "I've always figured Graves has terrible taste in men." TF comes up with this genius plan to fake a lover's quarrel to distract the enemies. It works. They escaped, and afterwards they talked about their past. TF jokes about Graves' history with terrible relationships, and the vibe is definitely there. They keep acting like they're just crime partners, but come on, they're into each other. They just don't say it out loud, and maybe haven't even admitted it to themselves yet. Could because of the China situation, could just be who they are, who knows. Just for context, the Chinese censorship is absurd. Just to give you an example, in the Chinese version, Vladimir doesn't throw red effects around like blood. Nah, it's all dark ink looking stuff. So Riot's in a tough spot. They can't always say what they want to say outright, but we can basically consider it canon anyway. Way back when the lore was totally different, League had this whole thing with Summoner's Rift and a constant war between Noxus and Demacia. Noxus was the evil warrior nation, Demacia was the noble one. It was Riot's way of trying to do that classic fantasy rivalry like Horde and Alliance from Warcraft. That whole good versus evil setup made people imagine a kind of Romeo and Juliet situation between the two enemy champions. And yeah, it became a pretty popular ship, but in the current Runeterra lore, they didn't have much going on, just a vague reference to their old romance. Then Riot dropped a Katarina comic and boom, we finally saw how they met and fell for each other. They clash at first because Garen thinks she's a mage, Katarina messes with his head a bit, trying to throw him off, but all of this is happening in the middle of Silas's rebellion, so she ends up fleeing, and Garen runs off to help Lux. They don't finish their fight, but you can tell there's chemistry. Even in League, if the two run into each other, they've got special voice lines like they're pretending they'd never met.
I will slay you where you stand. Dinner tonight.
You shall fall on your folly. Meet me at the South Docks after dark.
Another cool moment is in Katarina's comics when she's doing this ritual to get her abilities she has in game with the daggers. In that ritual, she has to form a connection with the daggers. To do that, she needs to clear her mind and focus only on something she truly connects with. And at that moment, she thinks of Garen and their fight. It's really cool because besides the fact both champs spin like crazy, they both have some problems related to their families. This one's got an interesting backstory. When Nidalee first came out, she was super sexualized. She dropped in 2013, and back then, this kind of hypersexualization wasn't such a big issue. But she had this hidden passive that when she was near a champion with a lower level, she'd give them XP just by being close. And that was because Nidalee turns into a cougar, which is slang for an older woman who goes for younger, inexperienced guys. So basically, she was more of an experienced woman giving out her experience. But that got removed from the game, and there's no trace of that anymore. Now, the cool part is the contrast between Nidalee and Nico. While Nidalee had that weird passive, Nico was basically introduced as some sort of romantic counterpart to her. Nico was the first officially LGBT character launched from the start, but it was never clearly spelled out right away. A big reason for that is China's censorship, like I mentioned before. There's a lot of stuff that gets censored in League over there because it's the biggest market by far, and Tencent, Riot's parent company, is Chinese, so they gotta keep the representation stuff a little under the radar. Anyway, talking about their romance, Nico is a different kind of Vastaya. She's an Uvai cat, a tribe of chameleon Vastayas that are some of the closest to the original Vastaya species, the Vastaya Shirei. Her tribe had a much deeper spiritual connection than any other Vastayas. They communicated through gestures and feelings instead of words. They'd show how they'd felt through their shapeshifting and their spirits, which they called Shoma. That's why Nico talks all funny. She's still learning how to speak with actual words. She's always communicated through her tribe's spiritual vibe. Nico's lore says her whole tribe was wiped out by a magical cataclysm, and she ran far away until she ended up in a jungle where Nidalee lived. When she first found Nidalee and the Paka tribe, she would just watch from afar, super curious. That's how their bond started, with Nidalee taking care of Nico and Nico falling for her more and more as she got to know her. Nico felt this strong connection to the Shoma and the feminine essence because that's what she truly resonated with. She didn't feel anything close to that with masculine Shoma. She really loved Nidalee for taking care of her and teaching her, but eventually Nico had to leave the Paka tribe and Nidalee couldn't go with her. Recently, there was an expansion in the Legends of Runeterra called The Heart of the Huntress that showed Nico being captured by hunters and Nidalee's pack comes to rescue her. They fight together again, kind of reuniting that passion and admiration they had for each other back in the day. Even though Nico is head over heels for Nidalee, it feels like Nidalee's a bit hesitant about the relationship. Maybe she's scared of tying Nico down, since she can't go with her on her journey to rebuild her tribe, but hopefully that changes with time. This couple had a major spotlight in the Mage Seeker game. Shyvana's story says she saved Jarvan's life when they were younger. She helped him when he was lost in a forest while her mom was hunting her down, so she couldn't stay in Demacia. But Jarvan decided to help her anyway. He put together the Dragon Guard, a group of Demacian warriors who fights dragons, just to go after her mom, Yiva, so Shyvana wouldn't have to keep running. After a long battle alongside the Demacians, Shyvana kills her own mother and joins the Dragon Guard to protect Demacia from other dragon threats. Over the years, she becomes one of Jarvan IV's top defenders, but their relationship is complicated because of the deep prejudice against magic and magical beings in Demacia. Truth is, Shyvana wouldn't have lasted a day there without Jarvan's protection. In the Lux comic, Jarvan talks about how his dad is pressuring him to get married, but he says none of the potential brides are her, not directly naming Shyvana, but it's pretty obvious. He knows it'd be a massive scandal for Demacian's only heir to marry a magical creature. That prejudice is the only thing stopping them from going public. It was only in the Mage Seeker that their relationship got more fleshed out. Shyvana acts as Jarvan's bodyguard and wants to protect him while the tensions between mages and citizens are exploding. Out of loyalty, she stays by his side and even saves his life again when Silas almost kills him. The two of them fight together in a boss battle that ends with Silas escaping during the rebellion. But as the story goes on, Jarvan becomes so obsessed with wiping out rebellious mages after his dad's death that Shyvana ends up leaving him. She realizes that's not the kind of king a dragon should serve, so she walks away. At the end of the game, after all the conflict ends, there's a final scene where Shyvana returns to Demacia to see him again. After that, their relationship is kind of a mystery, but there's a strong chance that Demacia's story keeps moving forward. They'll become an official couple, maybe even with Shyvana becoming queen. Their romance is even referred in a Star Guardian novel that Senna reads, showing Riot might actually invest more in this couple in the future. Let's hope that happens with Shyvana's upcoming rework. Even before Arcane, it was already said that Echo had a crush on Jinx, back when she just talked to her weapons. That was a throwback to her old lore, but Arcane really deepened that story, showing that they were childhood friends. After Powder died and Jinx took her place, Echo didn't like her anymore. Their first interaction after the time skip is Jinx straight up killing a bunch of firelights in front of him. By episode 7, they meet again and almost kill each other, an insane scene where they flash back into a childhood game and now ends with Echo almost beating Jinx to death. He doesn't finish her off because that deep down, he still cares about Powder, but Jinx tries to blow herself up and take him with her. In season 2, Echo ends up in an alternate universe where Hextech was never invented, so Jinx doesn't exist. There, he's dating Powder. That episode got huge attention. That track totally blew up. went platinum in France, and hit the global top 10 on Spotify. The whole episode is full of sweet moments between them, and it all builds up to their kiss on the rooftop while the song plays. Unfortunately, the end of this episode is pretty sad if you stop to really think about it. It becomes super clear that Echo still feels really drawn to Powder, even after everything that's happened to him in his timeline, and he still decides to go back to his reality where he came from, leaving behind a perfect life next to the person he loves just to save his original world. There's this quote I saw back when Arcane Act 3 dropped that really stuck with me, talking about Jason Echo in this episode. Who's stronger, the man who fought his way out of hell, or the one who had the strength to leave paradise? And going back to the show's timeline, he finds Jinx about to end her life and saves her. They fight side by side in the final battle of the show, and in the end, even after saving the world, Echo still ends up without Jinx. And even though she might still be alive, even if they do meet again someday, episode 7 makes it super clear that Echo still loves Powder, and Jinx just isn't her anymore. It's been a long time since she's changed, and she's not like that anymore. Honestly, the future for these two looks like it's gonna be real tragic. When Varus got a lore update back in 2017 along with the release of the As We Fall music video, 2 comics also dropped at the same time. One comic showed what happened before the video, and the other one continued the story right after. And it was in that second comic where they really dove deep into the couple that makes up Varus's body. So basically these 3 people make up this one being. In the comic, we see them hunting together, and Valmar going back to Palace to carry out the duty of guarding the temple where the Darkin is sealed inside a magical well. He was super loyal to his job of protecting the place, but when they told him that he had to leave his husband behind, he was seriously torn about breaking his promise. Then, when Noxus attacked Ionia and Kai almost died, Valmar didn't hesitate for a second. He jumped into the well with him in a last-ditch effort to save the love of his life. In the music video itself, we see him falling into the well, their bodies getting destroyed while their minds start to kind of blend together. Then Varus hits Valmar's body with an arrow, and all 3 of them merge into this new body, sharing one single mind. In the third comic, we see the 3 of them fighting for control over the body, while Varus tries to fill Valmar with hatred towards the Noxian who killed Kai, but before he could be totally consumed by that hate, Kai helps him regain some control over the body, reminding him that their love is stronger than Varus's rage. So they keep going, looking for a way to fix the whole 3 bodies in one problem, while Varus is out here trying to free the other Darkins scattered and imprisoned around the world. With Varus's update, we also got a bunch new voice lines, now with Valmar and Kai talking inside of Varus's head, showing more of that side where their love is what's keeping the Darkin in check. This is a couple whose story was really well developed for a long time, but now, thanks to the stuff like Arcane, their fate is just a big question mark. But ever since this champion was released, their story has been a huge part of her lore, and honestly, it's such a good one, and it deserves to be remembered, especially since it's probably gonna get changed in the future. I'm talking about Camille and her great love, Hakim. In Camille's lore, after her parents died, her brother started investing in the Furos clan's Hextech augmentations. That's their family's clan. Hakim was a crystallographer, hired to help with the research into Hextech crystals. Because of the trauma from her father's death, Camille decided to augment herself to overcome her human limitations. But over time, she started helping Hakim with the lab work, and after spending so much time together, they ended up falling in love. But he knew that continuing with those augmentations would eventually affect Camille's emotions, and especially her heart, which would need to be replaced with the Hextech one. Before that surgery happened, Hakim asked Camille to marry him. She was torn between doing her duty to her family or following her heart and running away with the man she loved, and she was seriously ready to leave it all behind. Knowing he couldn't be without his sister, Camille's brother faked an attack and manipulated Camille into giving up the idea of running away with Hakim. So even though he begged her not to give up on her humanity, Hakim went ahead and did the surgery to remove the heart of the woman he loved, since he was the only one who could actually perform it. After that, Hakim disappeared and was never seen again. That is, until the events of the short story, The Weakest Heart, where Camille finds out through Hakim's nephew that he returned to his hometown in Shurima right after the surgery and died of old age. He never got married, never had kids, and never got over Camille. He even kept drawings of her face from before the modifications back when she was still young. And when Camille saw those drawings, she felt like crying, but she didn't even have tear ducts anymore. So in that moment, she took the drawings and some of Hakim's other projects and burned them, finally accepting that she didn't have a heart anymore, and that the past was never coming back. And it all ends with her feeling betrayed by her brother and killing him for everything he did out of pure selfishness. And that's it. Thanks for watching.